Let's talk about the job market because apparently, when it comes to seeking employment, paper resumes and sites like LinkedIn have been the standard for several years, but apparently not so much with Gen Zers. A growing number are using social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram to highlight work experience and to offer themselves as potential candidates. So, Vanessa Aricarte is author of the best selling new book, Valuable and Visible: Redefining Personal Branding by Leading with Impact Over Image, and also a professor of personal branding at UC Davis. And Vanessa joins us now by Zoom. Professor, good to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about it, Professor Vanessa. What is it against what is it against LinkedIn and those type platforms that is irking, if you will, Gen Zers?
It's interesting because I don't think that Gen Z is necessarily leaving LinkedIn. They're actually the fastest growing subset of folks on LinkedIn. What's happening though is they're rejecting how it's used. They're becoming more transparent with it. Some people use the term loud quitting. So they're talking about if they're getting layoffs or if they disagree with something going on with corporate culture. And they're starting to change the way the platform is used. They're using a lot more storytelling. And again, these are digital natives. They have grown up on screens. They are used to using three screens at once. And so they don't differentiate between the business and the personal. So rather than keeping it just business on LinkedIn, they're showing a little bit of themselves as well.
So, can you just talk about the impact as far as presenting yourselves as a candidate? Because in this age of social media, Instagram, the videos, the intros, and things like that, can you just weigh in on how the landscape has, in your words, perhaps even opened up, to out of the box thinking when it comes to finding a job for this generation?
Absolutely. So these digital natives, that's an advantage they have. They're comfortable with video. And in the age of AI, which everybody's dealing with right now, people are really demanding authenticity and transparency, and video is a great way to do it. Simple face to camera video will do it, but their willingness to put themselves on video has made them great on Instagram and TikTok, and employers know that they're in those places, so they go look there, especially Instagram. Over 60% of Instagram users report that they go to Instagram to discover new people and new brands. Also, LinkedIn, though, we want to know that what we're seeing is real. Again, I mentioned storytelling. That willingness to bring a little bit of personal in goes a long way. A sentence lead in about an experience you've had and how that segues into a skill you have. And then finally, asking your audience a question. We put a screen in between and we think now we're speaking with the screen, right? But we're
Right.
speaking with the person behind the screen. And we love it when we're asked a question. We love to help people understand who we are, and it helps the person understand how to speak to a potential employer. If we can treat the internet as an extension of ourselves, these social media platforms, we get a lot farther. Never in real life do you say something to someone's face and they give you this kind of heart in return, unless you're Travis Kelce and you just made a touchdown, right? And you're talking to Taylor Swift. But usually we speak back to them. So comment back. What would you do in real life? Keep that authenticity on social media as well.
I guess one of the other things, Professor Vanessa, that I was wanting to know the response, the feedback from the prospective employers. What are you hearing? And we'll get into your book in just a moment, but how's that being received? Because again, the employers are from the generation and generations prior to Gen Z.
Well, a few things are happening now. First, if a job is posted, we have AI screening resumes. And so that's tough because it's hard to have a candidate be known by a machine, right? It's you lose a little bit there, number one. And so employers are increasingly going upstream and they're looking at kind of pull marketing for these candidates. I mean, whenever we are going to go speak with someone new or have a meeting with someone new, we automatically go and see if we can find them on the internet. And this is what employers are doing over 90% of the time. And so when an employer can easily find how a candidate can help them solve a problem, that candidate has an advantage. And candidates also have an advantage these days because I completely disagree that AI is eliminating jobs. I think it's shrinking jobs. And so if a candidate can put themselves in a position to collect two or three smaller project-based jobs, they become a consultant type a lot sooner. I actually think the gig economy is the economy for Gen Z. And luckily, Gen Z, when you point that out to them, they understand that. But to become a mini consultant, you have to build your brand online. And that's not just social media, that's a website as well. And really kind of funneling your information just as a corporate brand would. I also teach corporate branding and personal branding in the business school at UC Davis, just like I teach personal branding. And my personal branding class was one of the first 4-credit personal branding classes in the country, but it was born from corporate and digital marketing, because when we do those kinds of branding practices, we always tell the consumer what's in it for them. When we put the word personal in front of branding, all of a sudden we start talking about our own qualifications, awards, and accolades. But if I'm a product manager and all of a sudden, or I'm seeking that opportunity and all of a sudden I'm talking about an R&D process and these 4 common steps companies take, but how I do step 2 just a little bit differently. And now it's my goal, since it makes step 4 work so much more smoothly, to bring that to as many organizations as possible. If I'm an organization, I'm going to be looking for more information about who that person is and seeking out those qualifications, because you've already helped them understand your value.
Let me ask you this, 2 quick follow-ups. One, if one of your students asks, instead of sending the traditional resume, I'm just going to present myself, in a 10-second video or something like that, what's your response to that student, Professor Ecarte?
I say and, not or. So I hope that students find their opportunities based on this full pull marketing effect that I just mentioned before they even have to send resumes. And that is very possible these days via DMs and quietly via that online networking. Number one. But number two, do both. The resume is going to put you on that level playing field with everybody else, but try to say something a little bit different. Again, what's the common thing you do? And then what's that extra thing you know? So have your distinction there. But then, yes, add those kinds of things, because you do have these platforms and your own website. I think the personal website is completely ignored online. Most people don't have one. Yet in real life, if someone stole my identity right now, I would have to say, this is like such a great interview and thank you for having me. I love spreading this personal branding message, but I have to go fix that. I have to go to the police department, right?
Hmm.
But online, we leave our information just scattered everywhere. A website is an owned place where you can own your first and last name as a URL, and you can bring all the stuff you're doing on social media to a very active blog section. That increases your presence online when AI, Google Gemini, goes to search all these different sites. Now you control what that search engine sees about you. And what it shows other people. So I always say and, not or, but use the digital space to your advantage. If you were a mini organization, if you were a CEO of a mini organization, what would you do online to have a presence? You'd be on key social platforms. You would have a website. You would even have a newsletter that you would regularly email and text to folks that you build with your own audience.
Professor, we want to talk about your book and just where can people find out more about the book if they're interested in hearing more about this conversation and this way of thinking.
Yeah, so I see that you put the book on screen. So my website, I practice what I preach. It's vanessaericardi.com, spelled just how it is on that cover there. Book is everywhere books are sold. And in this book, it really is a love letter to these people that are looking for jobs, pivoting jobs, even that executive who was really good at that skill to get far in a career and now all of a sudden has to have this distinctive point of view that they're known for. So what I do is I turn personal branding inside out to how we're used to it. And like I said, I give a process where it's no longer about you, it's about how you can help. Then you become massively memorable. You rise above all the algorithm and AI slop. And it was very important to me. In fact, 2 of my students that have been in my class said, will you please write this book? It changed our lives, and I really want you to get the word out there further. So I just wrote step by step. How do you do this in 2026 to become memorable and create that pull marketing effect to yourself, for yourself? Because I think the side of AI that we don't talk about are these mini opportunities that some of these jobs are turning into, and the opportunity to collect them. And if you can be nimble enough online to figure out how to do that, I think you have a lot of opportunity in ways that we didn't have before.
Professor Vanessa Aricarte, author of the best-selling new book, Valuable and Visible, Redefining Personal Branding by Leading with Impact Over Image, as well as personal branding professor for the MBA program at UC Davis. We thank you so much for being with us. Some very valuable information and a lot of ears in the newsroom were actually tuning around listening to this interview as well. Just to pass that on to you.
Yay! Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Have a great summer. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, everybody, we're going to be